Okay, so in this section, we're going to continue factoring trinomials. The only difference is that the leading coefficient a will not be 1. It will be bigger than 1. Positive or negative, doesn't matter, but typically it will be positive, just so you know. And so the same strategy, the AC method, is going to apply. The reason why I want to do this section separately is because some students do discover shortcuts for the last section when a equals 1, but when a is greater than 1, there is no shortcut. You can use guess and check with FOIL, but the AC method is the way to get it every single time without guess and check. So if you're familiar with that, this will seem the same because it is. So the AC method, as a review, we're going to multiply the first term times the last term. And then we want to come up with factors that add with positives or negatives to get the middle term. Okay. We always rewrote the middle term and then we used grouping. Okay. So if you use this process for section 3.4, then you could probably watch one example just to get a refresher since it was last week, and then you might not need to watch the rest of the examples. Okay. So factoring trinomials, it will typically be the most frequently typed of factoring used. There really is no shortcut when a is greater than 1, and so typically it's much harder for students, so I wanted to make sure we had a little bit of extra practice since we will be using this next quarter and if you continue with Sec 3. All right, so let's look at the first example. So we're going to multiply 3n squared times 4 gives us 12n squared. Now we want to come up with factors of 12n squared that when we add and subtract will give us negative 8. Okay, so we want to multiply to get a positive and add to get a negative. And so we discovered last section, both of our signs are going to need to be negative. Okay, so we can think of 12 is 4 times 3. If we add those together, we get 7, which could also be negative 7. And so because we want 8, I know 4 and 3 are not the factors of 12 that I want to use. So we can try 2 times 6. If we add those, we get 8. And so if I want negative 8, if they're both negative, we get negative 8. And if we multiply, we get positive 12. And so that's how we know those are the correct factors of 12. We also need to split up the n squared. So remember, we're going to rewrite that middle term. So bring down the 3n squared. And instead of negative 8n, I'm going to write my two factors in either order. It does not matter. And then we're going to bring down the 4. Okay. So from here, now that we have 4 terms, we're going to do factor by grouping. I can factor out an n. We're left with 3n minus 2. I can factor out a negative 2 because I know I want that first term to be positive 3. So factor out a negative 2, and if we divide to factor it out, just to check, we would get positive 3n, and that is negative 2. So my quantities match. We did grouping correct. We'll put the outsides together as a factor and the insides. Okay, and so now we have done the AC method for factoring trinomials when a is greater than 1. All right, so if you feel pretty confident, you're welcome to go ahead and try the practice. I'm going to do a couple more examples just as a refresher if you want to keep watching. All right, so let's look at the next one. We do have a higher power, but we can still get that done. So we multiply, I would get 210 u to the 4th. So I want to come up with the factors that will give us 41. So, well, we can try, I know 21 times 10. If we add, we'll get 31. And if we subtract, we get 11. So that's not going to work. Now, these are kind of bigger numbers. I know 7 and 30 were also factors, which would give us 37 or 23. And so because I know 21 divides, I know 7, I can find other factors. If 7 divides into 21, I can also divide by 3. For 10, 5 was also a factor. So you can find other numbers just by dividing the other terms by that, okay? So let's look at 3. So if we take 210 divided by 3, I get 70. So we would have 73 or 67, too big. If we divide by 5, I would get 210 divided by 5 gives us 42. So that's not going to work because that's 47 or, 47 or 37. But I also know 6 divides by 30. So let's try 6. So 210 divided by 6 gives us 35. And so this one was a little harder because of all the factor choices. 210 is kind of large. And that is what makes when a is greater than 1 a lot harder. So I know if I add these together, I will get 41. So that's what we want. We're going to split up u to the 4th as u squared and u squared. So 7u to the 4th plus 6u squared plus 35u squared, and then we still have that plus 30. So now we're going to do factor by grouping. We have a u squared in common, so 7u squared plus 6. These terms will both divide by 5, positive 5, so 7u squared, and divide, we do get plus 6, and because that matches, we know we're correct. And so our outside terms are u squared plus 5 and 7u squared plus 6. So that was not easy to get because that factor was so large. So I want you to kind of see how to find other factors because that is going to be the hardest part. All right, let's try a third example. We've got 3 times negative 14, so negative 42 u to the 4th. All right, so I know because I need to multiply to get a negative, I know my signs have to be opposite. So 42 I can think of as 2 times 21. Well, I can have 23 or 19. I need negative 1, so nope. But I know 7 divides into 21, so 7, and if we divide, we get 6. And if we want a negative 1, I could have negative 7 and positive 6. That would give us negative 1, and if we multiply, we get negative. So split up the u to the 4th, I get u squared, and we're going to bring down 3u to the 4th. Then I'm going to rewrite my next two terms as negative 7u squared plus 6u squared, and then we're going to bring down the negative 14. So common factor, we'll take out a u squared. So 3u squared minus 7. These two terms are even, so we divide by positive 2. 3u squared minus 7, and we match. So u squared plus 2 and 3u squared minus 7. Okay, so there we go. And our last example, we'll multiply. We get negative 100 n squared. So because we know we have a negative multiplied, I know my signs are going to be opposite, and we want to get negative 15. So I know 10 times 10, so we could get 20 or 0. I know 5 divides, so 5 and 20, I could get 25 or 15, and we want negative 15, so positive 5 and negative 20, and we'll split up the ends. So we've got 4n squared. And then I rewrite my terms, plus 5n minus 20n, and then minus 25. So common factor n, 4n plus 5. I know they both have a negative and they both divide by 5. So negative 5, and we get 4n plus 5. And our factors match, so the outsides and the insides, okay? So like I said, if you did the AC method on section 3-4, this probably doesn't look any different because it's not, okay? I just wanted to make sure because there are some choices on that last section if you watched other internet resources. All right, good luck.